Show them, because information in Africa, history is completely controlled in Africa. We don't learn history in Africa. Do you know what? Show them the brutality of the empire. Show them the brutality of the slave trade. Just show them. And you know what? If you don't want people from Africa coming to Europe, leave Africa alone.
Portuguese exploration and colonization. Soon after the capture of Ceuta in 1415, the Portuguese, under an organization set up by Prince Henry, the Navigator, became the pioneers in European exploration to the western coasts of Africa and the search for a sea route round Africa to the east. The trade route to the east through the Mediterranean and overland to the Red Sea and Indian Ocean had for long been dominated by the Arabs, and was also subject to interference by the Barbary pirates of the Mediterranean. In the first half of the 15th century, the Portuguese discovered the Atlantic island of Madeira, the Azores and the Cape Verde Islands. All were uninhabited, and the Portuguese annexed them. In 1446 they landed and established trading posts in the Senegal district of West Africa. In the southwest they reached the Congo estuary in 1482, and later made settlements in Angola, with access to trade with the kingdoms of Congo and Ndongo. In 1497–98 the Portuguese Vasco da Gama sailed round the south of Africa and on to India, calling at the East African ports Malindi and Mombasa on the way. When da Gama returned to Portugal he described the great wealth of the Swahili cities, and subsequently the kings of Portugal sent fleets to capture and loot these cities. The Swahili trading community was largely ruined, and some of the cities were abandoned. But some survived, as did the Swahili culture, and at the end of the 17th century the Portuguese were expelled from the East African ports north of Mozambique by Arabs from Oman in southeastern Arabia. Portuguese activity in Benin and Morocco in the 16th century. Also in this century they tried, from settlements on the Mozambique coast, to gain control of the gold mines of Zimbabwe. Unsuccessfully in the Rosvi Kingdom of southern Zimbabwe, but with more success in the northern kingdom of the Mwana Mutapas. In 1573 they persuaded the king to give them possession of some mines and permission to settle along the Zambezi River in northern Mozambique. But the settlers wanted more, and gradually increased their influence over the affairs of the kingdom. In 1628–29, with hired African soldiers, they defeated the king's forces, and a new treaty made him a puppet of the Portuguese. The same thing happened in Angola. At first on friendly terms with the king of Ndongo, the settlers' ambitions culminated in a war of conquest. This went on intermittently from about 1580 to 1670, by when Ndongo was a broker kingdom, but resistance continued, and Portuguese penetration of the interior was very slow. The Kingdom of Congo suffered the same fate. At first an ally of Portugal, Congo later became a target for military invasion, about 1665, when the King of Congo was captured and killed, and the independence of Congo was ended. One of the motives in these Portuguese conquests was the procurement of slaves. When the Portuguese first landed in West Africa in 1446 they brought back, not only gold, but a few slaves, and during the rest of the 15th century the trade for slaves in return for European goods expanded partly to relieve Portugal's limited resources of manpower. The sale of slaves was no new custom in Africa, nor in Europe. In Africa there were rightless persons who were subject to sale, and at first these were the people sold to Portugal, where they became household servants or were trained as craftsmen. Their lot in Portugal was probably little worse than that of the free, but poor, Portuguese. A big change in the nature and extent of the slave trade, however, came after the discovery of America and the beginning of European colonization there in the 16th century. In Ndongo the king's title was Ngola, which the Portuguese mistook for the name of the country, hence Angola.